Welcome back, Astro listeners, to Star Lady Soul Reader Network. This is Media Monk, and as usual, I have the shining star of the zodiac, Star Lady, right on the line. Hi, Star Lady.
Hello, Media Monk.
And most of us recall Star Lady as Kim Marie, the managing director for our network. EAN continues to certify new evolutionary astrologers, and yet we attract more people just looking for that next level of soul growth through our materials in our EA course. You can call us anytime, 605-348-5111 for more information on the website, the EA course, or to schedule your personal consultation with Star Lady. All right, well, here we go. We're in late Virgo. We've got a full moon out there, and we're on the Spring Equinox. So I know you have a lot of other current geopolitical charts and people in the news, so I'll turn it over to you, Star Lady. Welcome, everybody.
All right, thank you, Media Monk. Welcome to our full moon of Virgo, which is going to take place on Friday, March 18th at 27, almost 28 degrees, Sun Pisces, Moon in Virgo. So we're at the tail end of the Sun's solar passage for one more zodiacal year. That Spring Equinox is going to come March 20th. And before that, though, happy St. Pat's Day to any of you who are Irish. We are recording this the day before the full moon. The planets in the heavens right now seem to be congregating in Aquarius and Pisces. And we know that we're going to have the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction next month, April 12th, I think it is, at 24 degrees Pisces. However, we've had the Sun going over Jupiter and Neptune over the last few weeks. We have Mercury catching up and doing the same thing on us. Mercury's going to go over Jupiter March 21st, 19 Pisces. Then it's going to go over Neptune March 23rd, 23 Pisces. So not only do we have this full moon of Virgo going on, we have a congregation of planets in Pisces, Mercury, Jupiter, Neptune, and the Sun. What do we think and what do we believe? I remember the last podcast, I was just the new moon of Pisces. I was just despondent over what was going on in the heavens. Not in the heavens. Geopolitically, it was just like, oh gosh, are we so, excuse my word, are we so asinine that we still go to war on this planet? So I'm, moving through it as maybe some of you are as well, and a little more hopeful with what Ukraine has been doing. So I'll share some of the Aquarius energy in the charts that are going on. But before that, this Piscean energy, this is really a theme with this undercurrent of Jupiter and Neptune, who only hang out once every 12 years. And they're only having one conjunction. And again, this is in Neptune's sign, and they're going to be about 24 degrees Pisces. And so are we deeply, deeply inspired in renewing our belief systems, or are we just disassociated from everything and want to put our head in the sand and ignore and avoid and check out and not pay any attention? And we probably have both going on. The intent, I always like to say Jupiter is conscious beliefs. Neptune is our deepest levels of unconscious beliefs. And together as a planetary pair, they really do help us intuit and discern what we do believe about ourselves, about people in our lives, about the planet, about all species. Pisces is the last archetype of the zodiac. Jeffrey Green would say it's a totality of consciousness, unconsciousness. So it's a totality of everything that's going on planet Earth. And so we're all looking at a deep death and rebirth of our belief systems going on. We're going to have Neptune and then, we're going to have Venus and then Mars catch up with these two planets in Pisces over the next couple of months. So it's not like we just have the conjunction on April 12th and it's all over. No, we're in the midst of feeling this energy very strongly during March and April. And here we are in our humanness having a backdrop of war that's really causing us to deeply reflect in many locales all over the world. Why are we doing this? And never before have we watched it so closely. I mean, there's been time periods I've had the thoughts more than once, oh, gee, why are we paying attention to this war in the West? Yet we ignore all the wars that we've been in the middle of in the Middle East over the last 20 years. Save those comments for later. You probably have thought it too. However, having a Western war and having so much of the West in Ukraine over the last, what has it been, 3 decades, it's just all there. It is on our screens. I've had to tell Media Monk, okay, honey, I can read about it in the newspaper, but I could not watch it visually. Neptune, Jupiter, and Pisces, please let it, I can't, I have to really temper myself with that. I'm too Neptunian myself. So that's the backdrop of the Pisces planets, shaking up our beliefs and having us question our beliefs on the deepest levels possible. The planets in Aquarius, which is Mars, Venus, and Saturn, on this full moon, we also have the asteroids Vesta, which is the hearth and the healing, and we have the asteroid Juno smack in the middle of this, partnerships, which are all in Aquarius, so they create a broader stellium if you are looking at any of the major asteroids as well. Again, we have Saturn hanging out at about 21 Aquarius, getting ready to square the nodes of the moon April 9th at about 23 degrees Aquarius, just before the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. These are the planets that are filling us up with the Aquarian shock and the trauma. And for those of us who are steeped in reincarnation, we ourselves have been through famine and war and contagions of disease and unimaginable traumas. And so we can all be running around with our unconscious and subconscious traumas triggered within ourselves. And then we have the disassociation of Pisces that can take place. It is important for all of us, especially on this full moon of Virgo, that we are taking those moments to do our best to heal. To Virgo, do that diet, exercise, and rest, and really work to ground ourselves on the planet Earth. This time it is different, this time it is different, this time it is different, as we are triggered, to really take care of ourselves and to process through the trauma as best as we can, and to really use that Piscean energy of prayer and the Aquarian energy of thought and communication to go, have we reached the saturation point of war on this planet? May it be so. I said it last time, Mars is easily known as a planet of war, but Venus in the ancient times was known as a planet of war too. When it rose as a morning star, it was an indicator that it was time to go to war. And as that morning star, creating the new beginnings of the day, it meant, or they hoped, that it would mean we'd win the war. Stay tuned. Here we have another war that started with Venus as a morning star. I don't know if anybody was aware of that over in Russia or not. But my point is that both Venus and Mars can or were known to our ancients. They didn't have the 3 outer planets to look at. They would be known as the planets of war. And these 2 planets are going to make their conjunctions to Saturn over the next few weeks. Venus is going to conjunct Saturn March 28th at 22 Aquarius, and then on the 30th it's going to square the nodes at 23 Aquarius, North Node Taurus, South Node Scorpio, and then Mars is going to follow April 4th, conjunct Saturn, 23 Aquarius, square the nodes April 5th, 23 Aquarius. And so we're looking at the next few weeks to months here at Aquarius and Pisces continuing to kind of run the show. And to have these squares to the nodes of the moon from Aquarius, it's all that stubbornness of energy that we feel going on. And it's the destruction of resources, North Node in Taurus. It's the power over power unders that we are looking at with that South Node in Scorpio. I've been hopeful with what we've been seeing and the fact that the Ukrainians have defended themselves so well. And I'm not discounting the fact, I should bring this up too, March 19th, Venus, last quarter square Uranus, 12 degrees, Aquarius, Taurus. March 22nd, Mars, last quarter square Uranus, 12.5 degrees, Aquarius, Taurus. The defensiveness, the trenching, the digging in, the I'm not giving up, the, fixed energy that says, I sense this is going to go on for a while, and maybe we'll get some kind of neutral peace talk where both sides back off. But looking at Zelensky's chart, the president of Ukraine, his chart looks to be activated over the next few years, and so this isn't going to pass very fast. Volodymyr, let's just call him V. Zelensky, okay? I'm not going to, my pronunciation gaffes that I do. Zelensky, more or less born at 2 p.m., January 25th, 78, Kryzhov, Ukraine. Look it up on the internet. His midheaven is 20 degrees Aquarius. Saturn is going over it 3 times. The first Saturn passage over his midheaven is March 14th. Here is the leader that we have just stepping up to the plate. Everybody's commenting on it. Social media, all of our major news things, how this Gemini rising president with Jupiter in Gemini first house has just stepped up to the plate with the communications and has delivered the messages so clearly for so many of us. Well, progressed moon went over his south node in Aries April 3rd. The stepping up to the plate emotionally. Transiting Chiron in Aries went over his south node January 31st. And so that emotional energy that you sense from him and that need to step up and be the leader and be with his people, that is a positive, healthy signature of South Node in Aries. The warrior for all of us. This progressed Mercury went into Aries February 11th. It's going to be working its way to that South Node over this next couple of years. And not only that, transiting Mercury is going to go into Aries March 27th through April 10th. So he's going to have transiting Mercury go over that Aries and activate not only that, but also his progressed moon. Mercury's going to make a conjunction to Chiron April 7th, along with the Sun on Chiron April 7th at 12 degrees Aries on his south node. The gentleman's on fire. And isn't it wonderful to have such a clear example of someone like him, comparing it to Putin. Sorry, getting emotional here. Putin, as we have spoken earlier, has a north node at 20 degrees Aquarius. His north node is on Zelensky's midheaven, 10th house cusp, Saturn activating both of them. And here's Saturn in Aquarius squaring the nodes, which is going to be within orb of squaring Zelensky's midheaven. And also the transiting nodes are going to be squaring Putin's natal north node in Aquarius as Saturn dances there. These two gentlemen have the spotlight. And we're going to just watch the back and forth energy of them. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful of seeing, these democracies and democratic countries standing up to the autocratic countries. And maybe they're all taking a second look at, maybe I better not quite do that so much. Media Monk, you're the one, I married an ex-stockbroker, and so every so often he, is coming up with, Star Lady, dee, and listen to these little tidbits and this little tidbit. And Media Monk, you might as well step up to the plate, because as these autocrats are taking maybe a second look at things, you can tell us that story through Alibaba, right?
Yeah, if it's relevant here, I'm not sure it is, but
it's democracy versus autocracy, honey. And it's going on across the board, front and center stage and behind the scenes all over the place.
Yeah, well, the short course on Alibaba is generally the holding company for the Amazon of China. Amazon, similar to Jeff Bezos, Amazon here in the U.S. They do it all. They do web storage, web services, but they're a giant retail house. So they got powerful, fundamentals, because everybody's online shopping in China right now. In fact, they're probably larger than Amazon in some ways in terms of their sales and revenues. But the regulators in China, the Xi Jinpings of the world, like Putin and other autocrats, they've basically slapped down the company for being a little bit too aggressive in data collection. They want to have access to a lot of regulatory controls were put in about 3 or 4 months ago, and the stock went from 300 down to basically, as of last week, around $80 a share. And it just goes to show you how interconnected we all are on one level. That's what I think. But how regulation and autocracies can affect the value of good companies. So you just know that that's always an inherent risk, a political risk, a regulatory risk when you buy one of these companies in another country. But then just as quickly as it went down, it turned around yesterday, because China has just announced that they are now expanding. They're going to be they've instructed their regulators to be more market sensitive and market favorable, and just like you might imagine, the stock turned around and gained like 35-40% in one trading day. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, Kim, but that's the history of the transaction that we were involved with this week. And, so we
go ahead.
Well, all the sellers were out of the stock, so it was easy to see that everybody's just waiting for the right time to get back in when they perceive that the regulations in China were going to ease, and so that's occurred. So there's your hot stock tip from the Evolutionary Astrology Network. It's probably going to, because all the sellers are out of the stock, it's probably going to be a very successful possibility of a trade. But, remember to, contact your own financial consultant and get your own advice. But But in relevance, there's my disclaimer. But
there's the stockbroker.
In relation to what we're talking about, democracies versus autocracy, you can see how.
Yes.
I have a hard time describing Pisces, but I know it's an influence here. There's so much going on with all this energy in the sign of Pisces that anything and everything can happen, and it sometimes happens all at once. And so it can be confusing for a lot of people. But I've been kind of watching this particular company for some time now because I always get interested when most people buy stocks when they're rising. I like to buy them when they're falling. So there's my little story.
Well, and thank you, Media Monk. That was the background. For me, it was the autocracy versus democracy that we're just seeing, front and center stage as, various countries around the world kind of pick their side. And China's trying to, quote unquote, stay neutral. And yet here it is doing its authoritarian crackdowns. We've seen it on, what was it, a tennis star a while ago. We've seen it do it on their actors who just disappear from the public eye and show back up so contrite. And now, we're seeing it doing it. We're seeing, what's his name, do it on, one of the largest companies in China. And, just took their stock down by 2/3, and watching what's going on in with Russia and Ukraine. Here's China trying to, I perceive it, trying to quietly and silently going, oh, we must be more market orientated. In other words, could they possibly be shooting themselves in the foot? Not to say that Alibaba didn't get its message, okay?
Well, I have a response to that. With this Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces, one of the primary reasons why the stock sold off, besides the regulations in China, was the fact that there's a lack of information coming through. These are American depository receipts. So in other words, the SEC has a lot of rules about disclosing earnings forecasts, factual basis of the stock, of what's going on with the company. And China is very mysterious with that. They are actually threatened to be delisted. Some of the 7 major Chinese ADRs that's on the New York Stock Exchange, the SEC threatened to delist them. Now all that has seemingly gone away too. So there's a typical Neptune Mercury moment where if more information was being withheld, now it's being easily provided. That's how it can work in Neptune and Pisces. It's one day you can't get any information, the next day there's too much information, or the information just shifts and does 180-degree turnaround on you. So
the world building up to this full moon of Moon. Go ahead, Virgo. Go ahead.
I was done.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm also sensing this build-up to this full moon of Virgo. And just in case this is a little more technical with astrology, the moon is making a sesquisquadrate, square and a half, to Venus-Mars on the full moon. And it's also making a sesquisquadrate to Uranus. When you have planets square each other, look over the opposite end of the chart and see if there's a planet there. Then you got the sesquisquadrates, or squares and a half, going from yang phase to yin phase. It's kind of like a yod, except the planets are in a square with 2. It's squares and squares and a half. It's tension energy. And so I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, even with this war, this Aquarian energy, and Saturn square the nodes, not that, you were bringing some good little Pisces comments, even though you weren't giving your South Node in Pisces credit. Saturn in Aquarius, square the nodes right now. It's giving us an early idea of what Pluto in Aquarius is going to be like over the next 20 years. Are you going to open up to democracy, or are you going to try and control through autocracy? And, all my Sag just goes to the, my Sag and Scorpio goes to the bottom line, and, gets a little blunt and direct with words sometimes. But that is the bottom line. And Saturn square the nodes. Do we all going to be self-reliant, North Node in Taurus, or do we have to be, controlled by others, South Node in Scorpio, whether it is financial and resource control, shared resources, Scorpio, or it's subtle emotional and manipulation controls. And it's Saturn square the nodes is battling this out right now.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I hear what you're saying there. But these are large, obviously Aquarius and Pisces is the flavor of this podcast, and those are large collective signs, and the collective can be controlled by authoritarian governments, regimes, regulations. Yet it is giant collective stuff we're talking about that can affect the masses, and boy, is that playing out on a dramatic level, not only through the Ukrainian war, but its effect on different collective groups of people around Europe, NATO included. All the governments, all the defense budgets are shifting. So these are big shifts in human consciousness that's really at play right now and under stress. So, and then in the midst of that, it affects certain market forces. A lot of market forces are intensely affected, and you can have quick shifts like our Alibaba tale.
And I wonder if it would be a different story if Saturn was not squaring the nodes. If we had the nodes in Sag Gemini yet, and if they would be getting away with something. It's just that divine dance of the stars that don't predict but lay the groundwork that we humans make choices with. So, Medium, I have a bit of a deadline as we're recording this, and so full moon of Virgo, take care of yourself with diet, exercise, and rest personally, and just observe how that Aquarian energy is waking you up and how you're making sense of it the best you can with Pisces. That would be the themes for all of us personally. And do your best to take a deep breath between these squares and sesquisquadrates and the opposition of the sun and moon and the squares of Saturn to the nodes. Do your best to take deep breaths and calm down through the tense energy that may wish to explode up and out. May we all on planet Earth be safe and secure and have enough food, clothing, and shelter. Thanks
for listening, everyone. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.